A beautiful mural complete with a cow greets you when you come to our offices here at the Visitor Center at 15 Overlook Drive in Great Falls. Coming up on this episode of We're No Damn Experts, we're talking with the creator, the artist of this mural, Ophelia Easton.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You wanna get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you wanna go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're No Damn Experts. Shannon?
Yes.
I'm going to put this on the record.
Okay.
It's Western Art Week in Great Falls.
It is.
This time next year,
Yeah.
no podcasts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I head to Calgary tomorrow.
Yeah.
So shout out to you Calgarians that are going to come see me at the Outdoor Travel and Adventure Show.
Yes.
Or that I saw
That you saw.
at the Travel and Adventure Show. It was super fun. I
Yeah.
loved talking to you. You guys were amazing.
Hopefully somebody will come talk to you then. Just kidding. You'll talk to people.
So there is that. And
Yeah.
in the studio today, and again, in the future, if this is another situation, feel free to do something like this. But in the studio today, we have an artist
Yes.
who
Works out.
can only make this guest appearance for us now, which is why we're doing it. Second, extremely talented in making cows. Thirdly, doesn't like painting clouds.
Oh.
False.
Oh, things have changed. Maybe.
Okay. We have with us Ophelia Easton, the artist behind our mural in our office.
Hi.
Hello, genius artist person.
No pressure. Yeah.
So let's debunk the cloud thing, because we worked on some clouds on this mural in our office, and they caused you some strife.
They did.
Because of the type of clouds they were.
The type,
Oh.
indeed.
So share with the people who weren't here for the drama that unfolded with the clouds.
Well, the tricky part with painting clouds is that it's really, you're painting air, and you're painting something huge and monumental, but that is made of little tiny particles of vapor that, I mean, how do you even wrap your head around that? And so the tricky part with painting the clouds in this mural was that not only are they air, but they're also air that's being lit by the sun and is somehow darker than the sky behind it. They're just a mystery.
When you start thinking about it, that is a more complex thing to paint well. Yeah.
Yes, to paint well.
To
is a
paint
very,
well is the key
very
word,
tricky
yes.
matter.
So let me take you back. Was this almost a year
So it's before I was here.
and a half ago almost? And we called Ophelia and we said, hey, we want a mural. We saw some of your stuff. It looks cool. Let's talk. And so she comes with her portfolio and we look at her stuff and we're like, oh, this is kind of cool. What do you think about our idea here? Like, this is what we want. And basically, correct me if I'm wrong, I said, we'd like a mural.
That's about as descriptive as you got.
Yeah, really. We think some of these things would be fun. What do you think? And she asked a few questions and then gave us a rendering. So that's my side of the story. What do you remember of how this whole weird engagement started?
Well, yeah, I reckon it was about this time last year, because I was getting really antsy to see that summer sky again.
Yeah.
And here especially, it's just such a big, big, big sky that I felt like I just hadn't seen in so long. And so the focus when it came to producing the mural was like, what kind of landscape can really show that sky?
And be descriptive of the area, because,
Yes.
you know, I think it's tough as an artist. You can fall in love with a lot of things, but it doesn't make sense to do, I don't know, palm trees and a
Paint a
beach
mural.
scene
Yeah.
Not exactly.
for Great Falls, Montana tourism.
Yeah.
And so not being an artist, which I think is clearly documented
I think
often
it's clear
on
neither
this
one of us is an artist.
podcast.
Yeah.
We had really just some ideas, and I would say a few musts. Like we want these things included in the specific clouds, or I shouldn't say the specific clouds. The specific sky is what we wanted. Ophelia first came back with this beautiful, bright blue sky with white, fluffy clouds.
Love the blue sky. Can't stay away from it.
Yeah.
But we said, nope.
We're going to make these clouds more challenging.
Well, the problem with bright blue sky is it is something pretty much you're guaranteed to see in Great Falls. What you're not necessarily guaranteed to see is that multi-layered, colorful sunrise or sunset. So we wanted to make sure we captured that.
Yeah, it's special when you see that.
Oh, I love it.
It's a rare
Yeah.
treat.
Especially we talk about the big sky. When you see it on that big of a canvas, if you will, like the world's canvas, it's just, there's just nothing quite like it.
So when you went back to do the sketch, what ideas did you come up with that we don't know about?
Well, do you mean visual or conceptual?
All the things.
All the
Yes.
things. Well, usually when I'm looking at the world or painting, which are very kind of in the same spot in my brain, I don't necessarily form a hierarchy of things in my head. So the sky is just as important as the cow or the bison or the plant or whatever. And so it was a matter of making the clouds just as important as everything else.
Yeah, great idea. And then Ophelia had a different animal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I
In the
heard when we
rendering.
had chatted, it was not initially a cow.
No.
No, it was a mule deer, if I recall.
And
Which
so,
is appropriate as well. Yeah.
well, very reminiscent of this area. And when we saw it, I mean, we did fall in love with so it sounds like awful. Like artist comes bearing their soul.
yeah.
Here's our idea of what we think it should be. And we're like, oh, we love it, except for the sky.
Except change this, and this.
And we wanted a different animal. And we didn't know we wanted a different animal until we
you saw it.
the mule deer.
Huh.
And that's when we said to Ophelia, what do you think about a cow? she's so kind and polite. She's like, oh, that's a great idea.
What was actually going through your head? Yeah.
I had to think about it for sure. Just because the cows are not really a wild animal per se. And in my mind, I've seen millions of them, and so they just didn't pop up as an animal worth painting, really.
Well, and in theory, like if you're going to create a masterpiece of art, cow is not necessarily going to be the center point. You know, I think a lot of times, especially now during Western Art Week, people are thinking elk and moose and these grand animals, and we're like, we want a cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a cow.
Got a cow.
We got a lot of cows actually in the mural. There's quite a few cows.
Yeah, she's got her friends in the
I
background.
guess there is. I always just
Yeah.
focus on our main gal there, but yeah.
Yeah, and originally we just had like the one deer, but this came with a cow and then multiple cows. One of the coolest parts I think about the mural, and then Ophelia can tell me what she thinks, and they almost weren't there because we had this big sketch, and there's a really, when you look at the two walls of our mural, they're almost really insignificant to the picture. Like it's not a focal point for you, but there are Canadian geese that are flying on the mural. And they were really important for me that they be there. And I'm going to have Ophelia talk about the way she did this. They were there, and then the painting started, and then they weren't there. And she came in one day, and I'm like, our geese disappeared. And I was just wondering, like,
where'd they go?
What's going on?
What's going
She's
on
like,
here?
oh, do you want those? I'm like, yeah. Like,
The geese are very important to you.
to me, the geese are, and people, you've already heard my bird story from the glory of the wattle. But
Yeah.
anyway, Ophelia's like, no, I can put it back in. I'm like, perfect. So I got my geese. But for me, because there's, I guess, so many, I'm going to say this, themes or representations in a lot of artwork, we really wanted to make sure that we had certain elements in there. And the Canadian geese were part of that because we have so many Canadian travelers that come to our community. So that's why
They
Ophelia-
represent our friends to the north.
Ophelia added my geese back in.
There they are.
This mural too is, and we'll post pictures, we'll share video and things like that. But it's a like you said, a 2-wall, like an L shape thing.
And that wasn't our original thought.
Okay, I wasn't here for that process, so I'm curious, like how that was decided, why, and how challenging it was to do that.
I am going to say, I think Ophelia came up with that idea or somebody else. That wasn't originally our idea, was to do two
both
walls.
walls.
It was just going to be a 1-wall mural.
Yeah.
What do you remember?
I think I remember just walking in and automatically going, "Oh, great! I got to paint on 2 walls."
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just immediately made sense to
Maybe
you that it would
without
extend
even
on
thinking
that.
if that was the actual situation.
But I look at it now and I'm like, well, of course it has to be on both walls.
Right.
It doesn't make it would look so flat to not have it. It's like the image itself is multidimensional and just makes sense to have it kind of wrap around the wall. It
And it
seems.
might have
immersive.
just been a simple question like, are you doing 1 wall or 2 walls?
Yeah.
And we're like, we don't know.
Yeah. You do. What do you think? Yeah.
So, I mean, it was, I can't imagine how dumb it would look with only 1 wall, you know, today. Like
right.
now that
what would we do with the other wall? It wouldn't
make
do it
any
justice.
sense.
No. It is. So it's been a while since you've been back in the visitor center. When you walked back in the doors just a few minutes ago and you walked in and you saw your mural, because it's a huge focal point. It's the first thing you really see when you walk in. What did you think? Do you have your like critical artist eye of like, do you see things or what do you think when you see it now?
Oh, definitely the critical artist eye. I move on so fast.
Yeah.
Just in my practice. But just the same, when I'm working on a painting, it's a very intimate experience. You know, I spend a lot of time just looking at a really small area, really. I mean, maybe even for this one, it's, you know, there's a lot of time to spend on small parts. And so in a way it was, you know, there's a critical eye, but that's just the paint and the wall. But the feeling of it was really like actually seeing an old buddy that I haven't seen in a while. It's like, oh, hey, you.
Because you spent so much time. You put so much of yourself into
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
You didn't immediately notice the holes that I created that you had to cover up.
Oh, well, now I am.
She's like, oh, yeah, that part. Yeah. Rebecca,
The
we won't
huge
mention that.
error.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I think, just a sentiment of construction, FYI. Like, we went into this plan we knew this was going to be a mural and we knew we wanted a neon sign. So these are the 2 elements. What we didn't realize when we did all that is like what the mural was going to be and where specifically outlets should actually be placed in relation to the art that the mural is going to be. So when we get finished with the mural and we see where the cow is, it's not conducive to putting the neon sign over the outlet, which was the original intention. And so the other part was, well, we'll figure out a cover. Well, it's not really easy to figure out a cover.
Yeah.
So we're still working on that. And when that happens, then guess who's coming back to figure out how to blend the cover into the rest of
You
the
got
art.
it. I saved my colors. They're all in a jar.
Oh,
so
that's
we're
Good
good.
deal. Because that didn't make any, like,
Yeah.
it made sense when we were designing the space. Didn't make sense once airy was in place.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, well, that's going to look stupid. So that's what happens.
That happens.
Yeah.
And then with the installation of the sign, people, let me tell you, just for posterity's sake, that neon sign, the way I constructed it, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
It came on a cardboard, piece of cardboard, and I marked the holes, and I pre-drilled the holes for this. I taped it up onto the wall in the space that it was going to be, like the right location, leveled it all up, had my screwdriver. I was getting to work, get everything screwed. I'm like, gosh, this is going great. I hammer in the anchors. Everything's going swimmingly according to plan. It is smooth. It is flawless. It is beautiful. Until I realized I had the cardboard upside down. So if I went to install the neon sign upside down, it would have been perfect. But what wasn't perfect is the holes were not lining up when you're trying to install the sign the correct way. So
Therefore, Ophelia had to come back and visit
Well-
to cover holes.
It's like our dads told us. Eyeball twice, cut 3 times,
Yeah.
measure once,
Yeah.
cut 3 more times.
So I sat there and I stared at that and I cussed myself, all while guests are walking in.
Oh.
And it had to have been a sight. I'm in my dress and heels, climbing up on a ladder. It's fine.
I think I
it's
did
not
get
a
a
big
picture
deal.
of that, actually.
But I got so mad at myself because had I done it if I had just turned it over, it'd have been flawless and perfect. But no, instead, I ruin a work of art and then have to call Ophelia and go, so I screwed up and need you to come fix this. She's like, oh, no problem. I'm like, really? She's like,
but I defaced
she was here
your
like
painting.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
You were
She's
very
like,
quick
boom,
with
boom,
it.
boom. All right, I'm done. See you. And I'm like, thank you for saving my life.
Yeah.
So I also dropped the screwdriver or the drill on the wall, and so there's some grass that is no longer growing.
Well, that's okay. Well, let's forgive it.
It's a
We'll pretend it
natural
was
mark.
the invasive cheat grass.
There you
There we
go.
go.
You
I
helped.
had to get rid of it.
You
Even more
helped, yes.
realistic. Yeah.
So share about this process. We've got the time-lapse videos of the entire thing, but you don't start just by painting. So tell us what people who weren't here would have seen had they been here.
Well, oh my goodness. To be honest, I might have to reference some of those time-lapse photos because I can't remember the whole process off the top of my head. But yeah, it usually starts with a drawing on the wall. Great stuff. It's like being 3 years old again.
To draw on the
with like a
wall. It's every
pencil.
child's
Yeah,
dream.
with a pencil. Just because accidents do happen and compositions change. And did I paint the wall orange?
Nope.
Okay. Usually that's what I do.
It's your go-to.
Oh. You didn't do that.
Well, maybe not on this one, but in the rest of my practice, I like to do like a Home Depot orange
Nice.
underpainting. Yeah.
Ooh.
Why do
Yeah.
you do that?
It's hard to say. I got in the habit of doing it just after seeing a few painters practice it, and it really just adds so much depth and
Oh.
light to things that even though you paint over all the orange, it really adds a lot of dimension.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, so she could have painted it
So I
orange.
could
you
have
just
painted
wouldn't
it
have
orange, but
known.
I didn't. So
I thought it was gonna be like, oh, so my sketches show up better and
Yeah.
it's easier to paint, but no,
No, it
that's a better answer.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Um,
I think some of the videos show just penciling all over the wall, which I would think, I mean, are you just free sketching that and like the dimension? Because to me, like getting the correct dimension of everything over that scale of a size and a corner would be really challenging.
yes, and it was.
Oh, did not look challenging at all.
Oh, you guys. It's just a matter of drawing and stepping back to see and see how it's going to look in the space. Because sometimes, I mean, There's definitely like a bit of wiggle room with that sort of thing. And we're not in the Renaissance. It doesn't have to be perfectly anatomically proportioned.
Yeah.
And so sometimes just kind of that more, what would the word be, like just the instance of looking at something rather than going up and measuring it and seeing how proportional it is. Like sometimes the instance actually works better than actual.
So you're just working kind of off of instinct and as the whole thing is coming together.
Yeah.
Well, my instinct would not turn out well.
And
with
let me
that.
tell you, the sketching part with pencil was like a day.
Wow.
Like it.
That would, that would take me forever. Well, I couldn't do it
the
in
other
general,
thing
but-
that's interesting is you got the two walls, but you also have the height of these walls aren't the same. And so as you're heading up to the ceiling, you've got angles there that aren't the same.
Yeah. There's that whole element too.
But she sketched the whole thing with a pencil and was like done. And I'm like,
How did you just do that?
Every component, like you could walk in and you're like, oh, I see what's going to go here. I mean, it wasn't like you couldn't see it from the doorway. You had to get up close to the wall. But
it was there.
After the pencil, this is the part that blew my mind. Do you remember what you did next?
Rebecca does.
I didn't study.
She used a Sharpie and went over.
Oh, the Sharpie. Yeah.
Oh.
So like she took a marker to the wall.
Wow.
That was cool because then when you walked in immediately, you
saw
saw
it. Yeah.
And that's the confident lines. Once I'm sure where it's going to be, that's when the Sharpie comes in.
So that was weird in and of itself because you're like, well, this obviously, I've not seen a lot of people create murals.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Let alone
Yeah.
a lot of people just create art from scratch.
Right in front and be able to watch the whole process unfold. Yeah.
So when she whipped out the Sharpies, I was like, what in the holy crap is happening?
Yeah.
And I just trusted the process. Like I told her,
Trust
I'm like,
the process.
hey, you clearly know what you're doing, mostly based on the pencil sketch because I wouldn't have gotten that far. And so she had let me know. She's like, okay, so now I'm going to go on with a Sharpie. And I'm like, okay. And then the next day I walk in and all you see is this black outline of what the mural's going to be. And I'm like, well, this is getting fun.
It's getting serious. It's happening.
So there was a lot of elements, not finished elements, like the Canadian geese didn't look like they do now.
Sure.
Obviously, they were just a circle and a triangle.
Yeah.
A little circle with like a
Bubble.
a gourd.
Yeah.
Or something.
So there was
There's not as much like dimension. You don't see like the kind of 3D or element to it. Yeah.
No. And then it was like that for a while. Like it was interesting because you get so excited. Like I don't know how it is like from the artist standpoint, but we're like, oh my God, we can't wait for this to be done. It's so exciting. And then that process took so much time in my mind. Like why aren't we just done with paint yet? Like you just expect like that part went so quick to the time where we were getting paint and the elements that you see. It's like, why did that go so quick and now we're going so slow? But you don't say anything like that. You're just like, okay.
And every artist has a different process. Some of them jump right into the paints and the colors.
Yeah.
And I think I treat mine more like building from the bones up.
Yeah, kind of like creates your own coloring page and then
Yeah, because then once the
Oh,
coloring
sure.
page is in, all you got to do is fill it in.
Yeah.
Ophelia's style, very, I'm going to say rugged. Like there's not, she's probably taking offense. Oh, well.
Oh, no. I'm like, yeah, rugged.
But it's quick. Like there's not, it's not like she's painting a portrait with oils. It's just big strokes. It's the big picture and there's great detail. Like the cow itself has great detail in it. But a lot of the painting didn't take long. Like the tree was quick, but that's because of her style is very quick and it's not portraity.
How would you describe your style?
Well, I'd like to start by saying that every artist has their own way of getting things done, and everyone knows how to work at their own pace, how to make the sort of things they want to make in a way that they don't die every single time. And my way of doing things is that I like to work fast. I don't really have a lot of patience when it comes to making things. But because of that, I have ended up being able to make things in a relatively short amount of time that I like and I'm proud of. Yeah.
And that was your first mural, or of that scale, correct?
Yes,
no?
I did.
Okay.
I did one. I think it'll be just a temporary mural at the Children's Museum.
Oh, neat.
Not really sure where they're at right now with their whole new thing.
Yeah.
We had picked Ophelia based on a wolf painting she had done, or a coyote.
Probably a coyote. I don't usually paint wolves.
It was some type of dog-like animal. But there was almost like hidden geometric print in there. Like you could see
that little guy.
Like paisleys or
cool,
different shapes inside that piece of artwork, which we felt added this interesting dimension. And you can see some of that in Airy, our cow, those details. And we're like, oh, this is cool. And it's got some choppiness to it. Like it's not refined.
It's rugged.
Yeah. It adds that element of rusticness.
Yeah.
And we just loved it. And so when we first saw that, Ophelia came as a recommendation from Sarah Justice with the Paris Gibson Square Museum of Art. And Sarah just has this knack of saying, yeah, this person's going to connect well with you. Like, didn't have to worry about it. So when she showed up, I'm like, oh, I love this. Like, it wasn't like the coyote print, but what we saw in that artwork, because we knew
the styling of it.
We can't, we want this on our wall, because that's not the way that works.
Right.
But that was kind of the funnest part. But the time for us that we knew it just took more time to watch this unfold was the sky and the clouds. And Ophelia there was a few times she had to walk away. She's like, it's not working today. Not done.
That's how it goes.
Walks away. And I'm like, hey, that's
every
fine.
time.
Yeah.
So that was fun to watch, because there's like 3 versions of what we wanted for clouds in that element. Was that the first time you'd done clouds like that?
Definitely the first time I did clouds that weren't white, or maybe just a little bit pink and yellow.
How many times have you done clouds like that since?
Never.
Never
again.
It's a one-time thing.
One and done. No, I'm just kidding. It would totally be a thing that I'd love to practice some more.
They're amazing. I think you have for me, I have a greater appreciation for those clouds than I would anything else, just based on what I saw happen with them, the different approaches. And they're stunning. And they're stunning in and of itself. But when you see how an artist moved through those, they're even cooler. Because there was a moment and Ophelia would work at night. So she'd come in. I'm like, all right, I'm heading out. Well, I'd tap her on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, I'm heading out. And she's like, all right, see you later. And I'd leave. And then I'd walk in the next day to see what she had done.
Well, that's kind of fun to walk in and see what's transpired.
And then you get to see kind of the slow motion video. That's not what it's called.
The opposite
time
of
lapse.
slow motion.
the time lapse. There you go. Yeah.
And you see Ophelia hopping around, because what looks like a small portion, like just the grass and the cows, it looks like, well, you should just be able to do that in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you just see
Ophelia
hopping
like
around like back and forth, and because it's just this smaller portion in relation to the whole wall. But those clouds, the first time I came in, I'm like, oh my goodness, it looked like a volcano explosion.
From Square Butte
the
there?
first clouds.
The first set. And I'm like, and I don't worry, because I've already seen most of this process play out. But I'm like, oh, that's an interesting take. Like, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen here, but there's a good reality that maybe Square Butte was a volcano at some point. So it doesn't seem that far away from it. I'm like, well, this will be interesting. And people would walk in and they're like, oh my goodness. I'm like, yeah, she's working on the clouds. I'm not quite sure what they're going to look like yet, but it's pretty cool, you know? And they're like, yeah, it's really awesome the way it is. So as she progressed, people would keep walking into the office and you'd see like portions of it are still white. There's some weird things going on over here, but not everything is finished. And so you don't get to see the full picture. And people are like, well, this is cool. And I'm like, I know, isn't it? But eventually the lava explosion turned into
into clouds.
Beautiful dimensional clouds. Like there's so much color in there. And then the shading that happens because it's I don't even know if it's a sunrise or a sunset. And honestly, I won't care, but it's obvious what it is once you know where Square Butte is and how the sky would look that way. But huge cool thing is the clouds to me. So,
and to watch that transformation of it happen.
Yeah. And I'll admit that's something that a lot of artists, myself included, try to hide. No artist really puts their process or
on display,
like that sort of thing. But that's a lot of the times when we walk away from our stuff is like, I don't like where this is going, but I don't know what's better, so I just got to get away. Think about it.
It's very vulnerable to have the whole process play out in front of people, especially someone who's hired you to do this and other people to watch that. And
I think the interesting part of that vulnerability is Ophelia had other work. Like she had jobs she was going to. So she might have to take like a week. And so you would leave a lot of, let's say, some of those elements that she's working on exposed.
Yes.
For people. And just, she's not there. And this is what people are seeing for a week. And they're going, I'm like, oh no. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, it's like walking around without pants for a week.
Just being comfortable with it.
Yep, gotta be comfortable.
But I think that was really kind of the neat part is we allowed it to occur in real time. Like it wasn't, we didn't say, oh, well, we're gonna lock you in for a weekend.
Thank you for not locking me in.
But she would come when her schedule allowed, and she was here over the course of like a month and a half, but it wasn't like she was here every day for 10 hours a day. So there was some of that funness for us of just watching the process unfold and watching people engage with the art at different stages, which was kind of neat. So,
and as an artist too, that is fun. Then that's when feedback can be really valuable. Definitely
throughout the process.
My only feedback was, where's the geese?
Where's the geese?
What happened to my precious geese? So I wasn't part of the initial process. So it was November of 21, correct? When you all moved back to the visitor center?
We relocated to relocated our offices in November.
Back up to the visitor center.
2021.
Right? Which sounds like a long time ago now that we're in 23, correct. But it's really, year and a half, less than that. So there's just a bunch of blank white walls. I'm curious, your, Rebecca, thought process when you guys moved up here, what made you decide you wanted a mural on that prominent wall when you walk in?
Wow, I'm so brilliant. It really wasn't my idea at all. Maddie, because we had Arts Fest going for so long, and we bill Great Falls, we leverage the artist community that we have here when we sell Great Falls as the base camp for art and adventure. So we knew we wanted art elements in the office. And Maddie was originally the one who said, what do you think about this feature wall or some type of artist wall or mural and we had some great ideas, like things that we thought were just going to be epic and awesome. There was a moment when Maddie had found this really awesome like moss feature on a wall. So there were elements of moss all the way around it, which we thought would have been cool.
Yeah.
So we weren't necessarily looking for a muralist the first time around. We wanted some art installation on that wall.
Yeah. Proved
to be a little more challenging than we had originally thought. And so the first round, we went out for RFP, asked for people to submit their ideas, and did a few things not the best and didn't get the results we wanted. So Maddie's like, we took a break, which is interestingly the theme for every wall in this in this space is if you just take a long enough break from the space or from the wall or from the, like, we knew we've had ideas for each wall, but we haven't figured out how to implement them. So we take a break from the mural thing, and I reach out to Sarah Justice and I said, will you come up and help? We want to talk to you about what we want, but we don't know how to go about this. We don't know what to do. Went through this process, wasn't successful. And Sarah's like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And at some point it went from a wall to both walls. Somehow. I can't even take credit for it. And Sarah sat down with us and explained to us the way we need to approach the project, talking about really the artist integrity and supporting the artist community. And so it was she talked about paying for rendering. She talked about the cost associated with this. She talked about the way we need to be comfortable in allowing things to happen. And she said, if you're comfortable with that process, because Sarah herself had done for a long time a lot of interior murals. That's kind of what she used to do. So she was very well versed in this. She says the big thing you have to remember is the artist is going to deliver the product and you cannot freak out in the middle of the process. So even when lava is spewing out of Square Butte, like, I'm not worried. The only thing I was worried about was like my geese disappeared, and I'm like,
the geese.
are they making a comeback, or did you decide you killed them, or
they
what?
They were at Freeze Out Lake on vacation.
Yeah, there you go.
And so that was really the only thing, and it wasn't an artistic. It wasn't something like, what are you doing with that tree? It was, we want that element. We want to make sure it's there. So hopefully that was the correct way. But Sarah taught us a lot about how to approach this. And I said, who can we reach out to? She's like, I think you're going to be better suited to just kind of reach out to some artists. And here's 2 that I think would be perfect for this project and for your style and for what you're looking for. Reached out to both of them. Ophelia returned our call.
And you went from there.
And then Sarah said, just have them come with their portfolio so you can see what their work is like. You're not going to necessarily know what it'll look like when you're done.
But the style and feel of it.
And so I'm like, yeah. And Maddie and I had both fallen immediately in love with the style. Really, and it was the coyote one that did it for us. There were some other things she showed us, but we're like, that's it.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing here is what's going to work. And I think there's a lot of that trust that has to happen. You just have to be vulnerable to go, do what you do.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing is Ophelia did a sketch and it was a digital sketch. Like, she sent it over in an email.
Oh, wow.
So we had the opportunity to kind of print it off and have a general idea of what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
And that's when we were able to kind of make the decision to go with a cow instead of the deer and discuss from there some of those other elements that we wanted to make sure were in that space. And so after that, we agreed on kind of the process that would unfold, and she showed up and started working.
Yep. And for you, when people, because that is when we greet guests, they come in. I mean, so many get excited about the mural. You know, they're kind of taking it in when they walk in. They're figuring out what this place is, that it's not just a rest stop, that it's not just a bathroom. And they walk in and they take everything in. But your mural is a big focal point, or people point at the cow and they love the cow. They want to look at it. What do you hope people maybe see, feel, experience, notice when they walk in and see your mural?
Well, I think, I hope it sort of brings attention to cows as actually like a really important, as actually a very important foundation to the Great Falls community. There's a lot a lot of beef out here and that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. But at the same time, it's like so many different communities have been built around that. And, you know, I've spent some time with cows, and they're so like loving and protective of each other, you know, and they really look out for each other. And I think Great Falls is pretty good at that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that.
Not saying everyone here is a cow, but
The story that the mural is able to help us tell, which I think is a second, we kind of had a general idea, but the secondary issue for us is agriculture is a big part of our story.
yes, it
and
is.
you see that in
Definitely.
the mural. Square Butte, our landscape is very diverse and different. There's mountains in the background, so you get to see kind of that diversity of our landscape. And then the Canadian geese, of course,
Obviously. Yeah.
which are a nice, huge portion of it. But the other thing that it does is we can take that story and then go into, which is almost crude, but dining options like Roadhouse Diner and
McCafferty beef. Yeah.
and then we held a naming contest for the cow because
Yeah.
you know, we asked Ophelia after she made it,
Yeah.
like, did you name any of these animals? She's like, no.
Nope.
I just painted them. So we had a naming contest for the cow, and this was a fun, interesting challenge because people came up with great names, but they were like historic figure names.
Right.
The one that sticks out in my mind was there was somebody who suggested we call the cow Valeria, which was Paris Gibson's wife.
Valeria
Wife.
Gibson.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that just didn't sit right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful name, but
But then you look at you're assigning it to a cow, and you're like, well, is that?
is that the
Right.
nicest thing?
It's meant to be an honor. Yeah.
And then we had the generics like Bessie,
right.
which didn't work.
Like, no, I'm putting the no. My cow is
No,
not
Bessie.
Bessie.
So it was a really interesting process of seeing what names people came up with. But when we landed on Airy, I'm like, oh, that's just
Short.
the
Yeah.
perfect name. And so for those of you that don't know, the Airy is the shortened name for Ayrshire, which we understand Airy is not a dairy cow, but the Ayrshire Dairy was an operating dairy here in the Great Falls area. And so in addition to that agriculture heritage, naming the cow Airy gave us that opportunity to be able to tell that story as well as part of that agriculture story. And then back to food, because who doesn't love a good glass of milk with their burger? And so
I might pass on that
you don't need milk with your burger?
one. Maybe in cheese form.
Yeah.
There you go.
Some people choose it, some people don't. But there's those elements that then create more of that story for us,
Yeah.
which that's ultimately what tourism is. We're storytellers,
Yes.
obviously, here in the audible form of what we're doing. So it added to our storytelling from that perspective. So my understanding, based on what Shannon told me, is you aren't here anymore.
No.
What's the deal? Because you lived in Great Falls when you did the
Yes,
artist, or
yes.
when you did the mural.
So I in let's see, I guess that'd be spring 2021.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Graduated Bozeman with my bachelor's of fine art,
Oh.
and at the same time, our landlords decided to sell the home that we were living in, and so I just had to, pick up everything and
Relocate.
get out of here. Yeah, and there was nowhere else in Bozeman at the time, so I came home, put my roots back down,
Yeah.
made some money, and then actually now I'm back in Bozeman,
Okay.
getting my teaching certificate.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Now, if I remember, because we didn't talk a whole bunch during the mural
Sure,
process, but there were a few conversations we had. Your aunt is a teacher, an art teacher in town. Your mom, your aunt.
No, my
Somebody in your life.
my aunt was an
Okay.
art teacher, and
There we go.
she actually is in Bozeman too.
Oh.
When did she move there? Years ago.
Well, you were right though.
Yeah,
It
but no,
right, yeah.
she was absolutely like my art outlet growing up, and lit that fire.
So at the time when Ophelia painted the mural, you were at the Paris Gibson Square Museum of Art as part of all the jobs you had.
Yes.
What were you doing at the square?
I was curator's assistant.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what does that entail?
Well, I would imagine it depends a lot on the institution that you're at. It ended up being a lot of looking at the permanent collection, preparing materials for art coming into the museum, installing the artwork was my favorite bit. I love it's like Christmas when you get a box of art that's for a show and open it up. It's like, oh wow, look at these paintings.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then it was great to participate in that museum.
So, what other work have you done from a art standpoint besides, like, you're going back to school, you're going to teach? Are you still painting on the side? Obviously, are you doing big mural commissions? Are you doing weird things now? Like,
well, always doing weird things, guaranteed. But yes, I do lots of painting still. I did submit a couple mural proposals that both fell through. One due to funding, and the other it was a selection process and didn't succeed.
Their loss.
Yes, yes. No, I'm sure the new one's great, but it better be.
Go in and judge it.
Yes. But then so I'm really lucky in that I don't have to pay to rent a studio, because that can be really, really tough to do in Bozeman, because most people live in apartments and don't have room for a maker space. And so the garage of our condo is actually split in half with a fake wall. And the front half is kind of the wood shop / all the general garage things that go in there.
That normally go in one.
And then the back is my little artist studio.
Nice.
So I do a lot of painting in there, working on some trades. And I actually just finished a painting a few months ago that has been accepted to the First Strike Friday at the Russell.
Look at you
Oh my
go.
gosh, that's
and it's
amazing.
a bison, another bovine.
That's amazing.
Perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, with the mural that we have here, there's just certain things that I would have never expected I would have wanted afterwards. But I was just even sitting in my office thinking, we need something on the ceiling, you know? Like as I'm looking out my office, like there's some corners of the way this building is built. There's just a lot of white space, which we don't mind. But then it's like, wouldn't it be neat to just have a little mural, like in this little area?
Or sculpture, too.
Something
like your
strange.
table.
Yeah.
Like a mobile, maybe.
Yeah.
Something hanging.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of opportunity for art in our office. And, you know, we had to go on the art side of Art and Adventure because we didn't want to make an obstacle course in this building that everybody had
not
to
big
go
enough
through.
for that.
Oh, yeah.
Although everyone asks what's in the basement, I suppose
We could make an obstacle course down in there because
try to get around all the shelves.
that right now. Yeah, we've got 2 desks for sale. If anybody wants some L-shaped desks, we could love to get those out of the basement. So
There you go. Yeah.
Now it's Tradio.
Yeah.
Radio.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Throw that out there.
Oh. So what was your favorite part of making that mural? Is there a favorite part? I always ask people
The
favorite
end.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's complete.
No, definitely the process. This one was a lot of fun, just trying to figure out how to make a composition on an L-shaped wall where one angles up super duper high. So it's just kind of the joy that people get out of solving puzzles.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when the right piece fits, it's like, oh yeah. Nice. Woohoo.
It's amazing to me, the gradient in the sky. Like when you look at the color layers. And I think I have a new appreciation for colors.
Yes. Yeah.
Because when you listen to Ophelia talk about how you have to create those layers, and that was another one that it started one way and ended a different way. But like, it's not just pink and blue and purple, it's the way they move through each other.
Yeah. And like I was saying with the clouds, it's like, how do you paint air? Well, it's like lots and lots of layers that are all incredibly translucent, but then make this big chunk of fluff in the sky. And I often talk about painting as just learning how to speak with shapes and colors.
Yeah.
I like that description of painting. If only it were that
Easy.
Well, it's like learning a different language.
Yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
So Shannon, not being a part of this,
Yeah.
that you show up day one for work
Yeah.
and we have a completed mural.
Yeah.
What do you notice about it?
I just love the vibrancy and the colors and how it transformed the office. Like it really gave it so much more dimension and character. And I just like watching people's face like light up when they realize it and experience it and maybe want a selfie with Aerie or something.
Aw.
So I think it just
They do
created
that.
such more dimension and character to this space that was just a lot of white walls.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It'd have been great to figure out how to do the moss thing because that looked
Ooh.
really neat.
Yeah.
And
Pretty dry here.
That's true.
well, and the maintenance of it was
Yes,
tough.
indeed.
But there is a business in town that did it.
Ooh.
And if you want to know, you can give me a call at 406-761-4436. I'll show you where you can head to see that. But
Curious.
we wanted it a little different, but it's really
Yeah.
cool to see it in person
Yeah.
actually happen in the community. But
Mm-hmm.
I am super excited that it ended the way it did because
Mm-hmm.
where we started to where we finished was like, it's one of those projects
Windy
like,
road
is
to get
this
there.
Process.
kind of like the Falls? I can't
Yeah.
wait till we do the Falls
Yes.
podcast.
Mhm.
Because we are going to
Cool.
have a Falls wall.
Like a display of all the falls.
Oh,
Yeah. Mhm.
cool.
And one of the big things was, and we've done these in layers, I'm going to say, kind of almost like an artist. We wanted the mural first.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that was the first one we wanted. And then as we build upon things in the office, especially now that we're on the Falls wall, which will be kind of in front of the mural, we don't want things to compete, but we
Yes.
also want them to complement, but not be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the big things is, as you're developing this wall, knowing that it has to live with Aerie and Square Butte and the sky and not detract from it.
Mm-hmm.
You guys sound like curators.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're so good at it. Yeah.
So that becomes kind of that problem of how do we want to do this in a way that pays homage to each element.
And has its own
Yeah.
uniqueness and artistic element to it.
It doesn't
Yeah.
look like someone freaked out and had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah,
you
like
know,
there's purpose behind all of them. Yeah.
like
yeah.
who was in charge of the world when this happened? Because it's not the
It's
same
not the
person
same as
that
that wall.
happened
Yeah.
in that world. But I am excited about the falls and what they'll look like connected with that mural.
Yeah.
So
You guys will do a great job.
Yeah. Well, we won't have much to do with it beyond here. Take this idea and run with it. Yeah.
this is another one that takes kind of that leap of faith. Like, have done everything over the email, have not met with the artists that are working on this yet. Love where they're headed, and I think overall they've got the same vision that I do. But my greatest concern is, am I setting them up for failure? Because like I had told Ophelia when she started, like these are the dimensions of the wall, and she came in with her own tape measure. And she took measurements, which then caused me great concern because my greatest fear is like, I'm going to give you the details, but
But they're going to be wrong.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm going to set you up for failure. Like what? I don't know what you need to know. I just know this. Like,
Yeah.
I
Here's
don't
a
know what
blank
you
wall.
want to know or how this is going to play out for your world. So in the last email, I'm like, I'm on board with this. I'm trusting the process, but I'm super scared that the information I've given you is like not the information
sufficient.
you need to do what I think needs to be done.
Yeah.
So would you be willing to just stop by and make sure what I've told you is exactly what you're
actually
seeing as
helpful.
well?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is going to be like a 7-foot long, 1 foot, 2 foot wide river.
Yeah. Well, and
I have
would
no
think-
idea what it's going to look like.
I would think as the artist you would want to see that space in person too.
Definitely. It's like what the opposite of what I was saying earlier, which is actually measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're going to stop by, but I have faith that they're going to create this really great thing, but I also want to make sure I haven't screwed them up by telling them something that's not like, oh, I wish I would have known this. Well, I would have never thought to tell you that.
Right. Well, and some of that's, it's not, if you're not in that world,
Yeah,
you wouldn't
don't know
even
what to
think
look.
to
Yeah.
know or ask something. Yeah.
Yeah, because Ophelia, when she measured, she was looking at where light switches were, and they were all part of the measurement she was taking. And I'm like, oh, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
But I, just automatically assumed you could paint over it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Right. This is why the professional comes in and does it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's always interesting to be a part of a artistic process when you have to have so much trust. So it's a real good lesson in life. I encourage everyone to do it.
Trust the process.
Yes, thank you for your trust.
Because it's definitely not an easy thing to do when you have no control over what's going to happen.
Right.
So.
Well, and I'm sure there's some pressure on the artist as well, because you're trying to take somebody's vision that is hard to, you're just trying to use whatever descriptive words you can think of to explain what's in your mind's eye. Yeah.
Well, and I think the other part of it is try not to be too overbearing. Like allow the artist to be the artist. I mean, that's the talent you're getting. So why would you not let them do what they need to do?
Yes. And a lot of artists will sort of make clear that boundary. Some won't.
Yeah.
But, everyone finds out what works for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learning process with that.
Yeah. So hopefully we adhered to boundaries real well.
Oh, yes. No, you did just fine.
Yeah. Our greatest issue was with just the sky, the sky and the clouds. That was kind of our big area of this is really what we want. Not like it has to be this. And Ophelia would come with like pictures, like what are you seeing, like this? And I'm like, you could make that happen.
And all the pictures were stuff that I would be happy doing.
Yeah.
You
and
weren't
I think
giving
that
options
was
exactly.
There was like, and for me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, that would be awesome. She's like, okay, I'm just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I'm like, make that happen. So that was an interesting process because you aren't sure what they're seeing, what it takes to do that. Obviously, like we've heard today about the clouds, but it's really an intricate process. And the areas that I thought would be difficult, like the cow, no.
The clouds.
The tree, done.
No problem. Yeah.
Like
Those clouds.
there were just certain things, like the things that you think are going to take the most amount of time actually don't, because they're so straightforward. So,
And in my experience, familiar.
yeah.
Yeah. Makes a difference. Well, I have a wrap up sort of question for you. So you're from Great Falls originally.
Yep.
What outside of the art world, what are things that you like about Great Falls or like to do in Great Falls beyond the art? I
just think that we're so lucky to have just such an expanse around us. Like there's so much out there. Visiting even just going up by Shoto and visiting Egg Mountain and seeing the dinosaurs, or just down by the river and all the amazing geological formations down there.
Do those show up in a lot of your artwork? I mean, we haven't seen the full collection of your art, but there's a lot of, I would say, influence from the landscapes around here that we saw.
Yes. Yeah.
So are you doing anything that's not like have you done, let's say, Captain Picard or city skylines or things that aren't like, don't feel like
part of the natural
something
landscape.
that are part of you.
I don't necessarily like painting people stuff.
Oh.
Like portraits or fences or barns or that sort of thing. Just because it's not really what I look at when I go out. But I have been working on some paintings. One of the things that I find really interesting about the area around Great Falls is its kind of geological flooding history, like all these big glaciers moving across the prairie and leaving these big dents, or floods moving pebbles across just a field, and now those pebbles stay there, and who knows what's going to happen to them next. And so I'm working on a painting based off something that I saw almost a year ago today. I was out exploring by Shelby and found where a portion of the hill had fallen off, and about 2 feet down there was a layer of soil, a layer of pebbles, another layer of soil, and then in this layer of pebbles a horse skeleton was sticking out.
Oh my gosh.
So you just got to see like this horse, who knows how long it's been there, but you got to see like, oh, there was a time when this soil went over it, and then there was a time when these pebbles went over it, and then there was a time where even more soil went over it. And so I think that it's really cool to look at the way time has occurred over the prairie.
That's fascinating. That would be a really interesting thing to come across.
And if you had the talent to be able to do that, dig into that and create your own version of that, that would be really neat.
Yeah.
I would take a picture and then would not do it justice. You should have seen it in person.
Right.
Like, you can't see it here.
The picture I have definitely doesn't do it justice, but I am working on a painting currently of that scenario where the cliff is cut away and there's kind of some grass growing up on top of it, but on top of the cliff there's a coyote standing, and he's sort of looking down at the horse skeleton. Pondering. Yes.
Well, Ophelia, are you in town just for Western Art Week? Is this a highlight for you?
This is spring break.
Oh, okay.
I'm hoping.
Oh, sorry for the letdown, folks.
Which actually it did work out very well. But yes, I will be in town till Saturday morning. So I'll just kind of get a quick look at Western Art Week. Not nearly as long as I'd like.
Yeah.
Hoping to see some good names there.
We so appreciate you coming on the podcast, taking time on a spring break to hang out with us.
Oh,
and
you got it. Happy
try to
remember
what you did over a year ago.
Process.
I got to remember to write it down next time.
Well, how often are people going to go, okay, tell us about this painting you did 3 years ago?
The step-by-step process.
I prefer to live in the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I think you move on, and a year is a big time frame as
you're constantly creating.
Yeah. It's like I don't even remember what we did, and
Yeah.
it was just a big thing for me, like just a whole fun experience. And I enjoyed just getting to see the process happen, getting to visit with you about the mural again. I could do this all day long. And I love the story.
We have some of the time-lapse videos on our YouTube page, and we'll be posting more. I did an interview a while back with Ophelia talking about the painting process, and got a little video when she was here touching up some of those holes and stuff too. So we'll look for that on our YouTube channel. Yeah.
So folks, thanks for listening. Until we see your bright, shining, smiling, happy, healthy face here in our wonderful community of Great Falls, Montana, we hope you're creating amazing memories with your family and friends wherever you are. See you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town. Damn, that felt good.